when I was starting to work, she was also starting to work as a teacher in a public school. So there was no need for me, because I'm earning 6,000, maybe she's earning 15,000 there. So there was no need for me to send money to her. So it was more like, it's just my money. And I'm the younger one at home. So it was more like, this is...
You're the last born?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm the last born, yes. So that's how it was. And then you also tell somebody something to say, you are not late to start. For example, for my mother, she started very late. I think she started being a teacher at 45. And I feel like a lot of people, they end up writing themselves off to say, I'm too old to start this. And then I feel like every time it's tea time, you can start being a teacher so late, and then your life will be so good in such a way that when you look at my mother now, you wouldn't say she was a cleaner before, because she has all these things that other people are having.
That's quite interesting. When you look at her now, it's as if she's never been a teacher before, because that speaks to us always saying,
yes,
you don't have to look like where you come from.
Yes.
Or when God starts to bless you,
yes,
it will be as if you never lacked anything all your life.
Yes.
So that must have been a great advantage on your side, because now you didn't have to send. Because I always wondered when you say you saved half your salary, I'm like, but your mother was a cleaner. Were you not taking care of her? Were you not sending any money home?
Yes.
Then it makes sense.
Yes.
So, and then you moved to Pretoria and you were saving.
Yes, I was saving 5,000 every month. And then at the end of the year, I had 60,000 plus the 36,000. Then I saved again just for a few years. But it was something which was good. The company was giving me a company car to say, you are on site. This is a company car you must use.
Is that the Pretoria?
At the Pretoria branch. It was a very big global company which is doing so well. It's one of those well-known civil engineering firms. So they were giving me cars. Every week I had different car. Like every Monday I was returning a car and taking a new car. It's like they were using those budget insurance and EVs and so on. So they were hiring a car every week for me for work. And then, so I didn't need a car at that moment. So I was more like just saving and saving and saving. So I saved until that money reached 120,000. Then that's when I said, no, let me buy my car. And that car, it's more like it was just parking in my place, because I bought it and then I was not really using it because I was still using the company car. Then it continued where I was just saving and saving. And then 2015, I had something like 100,000. And then I felt like now I'm tired of renting, because for me, I feel like renting is sending somebody to say, go and buy yourself a house. Then they go and buy a house. Then you volunteer to say, I'm going to pay for your house. It's more like you are paying somebody's debt. And then at the end of 20 years, you don't own anything and this house belongs to that person and they have a right to even move you out. So I felt like I'm tired of renting. I need something which is my own. So 2015, that's when I went and bought my first house. And then
you still live in the Pretoria?
No. I'd moved to Joburg now. I'd moved to a company in Joburg. And that company was a very good story, because when I went to them, they just called me to say, come for an interview. I didn't apply for that position. They called me because they know me from another project when I was still doing in service training. So they just called me to say, come for an interview. I went there. And then they're like, how much do you earn? I'm like, I'm earning 10,000. They're like, which qualification do you have now? I'm like, I'm having BTech in civil engineering. They're like, no, a person with a BTech cannot earn 10,000. We will give you more than double your salary. So immediately I went and resigned from that other job. Then I moved to Joburg. And then in Joburg, that's where I was earning something like 32,000. So
from 10 to 32?
From 10, I jumped to 32,000. That was 2014. So 2015, when I bought a house, I was already earning 32,000. Then I bought a house for 522,000. And then when I was just sitting in the garden, I'm like, no, I'm not
staying in that house.
I was staying in the house. It was my residential house. I'm like, no, I'm not used to having debts. I want to pay off these debts as soon as possible. That's when I decided to say, let me save 15,000 for 3 years. And then I went forward and saved 15,000 from 2015 to 2018, because the 100,000 that I had in 2015, I had used it all in making that house into something comfortable, more like doing the paving, more like doing cupboards and all those things. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, you're on your own. There was no woman to
No, then I was doing everything alone. So I did everything. Then I saved that 15,000 from 2015 to 2018. At 2018, I had 520,000, which I took and I went to the bank to say I need the settlement amount. And then I was so shocked that the settlement amount was 512,000. So I bought this house for 522,000. When I'm looking for settlement amount after 3 years, it's 512,000, which means I only paid 10,000 of the actual amount from the house. It only dropped by 10,000. And when I checked how much was I paying every month, I was paying 5,850, but that includes insurance. So I was paying 5,850 times 12 times 3 years, which is 210,000, which means the 10,000 went to the actual house, and then the 200,000 went to the interest plus the insurance, just the legal insurance. Yes. So that's when I started to be worried to say, I must start looking for ways of how to pay off things as soon as possible. If I buy something, let me look for ways in which I can settle this thing as soon as possible. And one of the ways is just to put extra on the debt that you have. If you put extra on the debt, you can be able to damage those interests that is there. It's more like I did some calculation with the calculator just to say if I buy a house for 500,000 and then I just add 1,000 instead of paying 5,000, I add 1,000. How many years can I save myself? And I realize it's like something like you can finish that house in 12 years, 6 months, which means you would have saved yourself a lot of time and a lot of money. So it's important to just put an extra amount if you have a debt. It doesn't matter if it's 300, if it's 500, it will really damage the interest. So that's when I was like, no, now I'm done paying off this house. And
can the same be applied to cars? What you just said?
Yes, it works everywhere. It can be applied to cars. It can be applied to phones. When the bank says you must pay 3,000, it doesn't necessarily mean you must pay 3,000. You can go and decide to add more. You can even do it through EFT and just send more on the debt. And then that's when you'll finish the debt as soon as possible without incurring the highest interest. So after that, I had paid up my house, and then my car, I bought it cash. So it was more like I don't have a debt. And instead of saving 15,000, from 2018, I decided to save 20,000. So from 2018 to 2020, I was saving 20,000 every month. And then when it reached 2020, I had 460,000. And then it was during the time of COVID now. And then I decided to say, what can I do with this money? Because I felt like just putting it in the bank, it's not really working for my best. Because if you put something like 100,000 in the bank, you can get something like 600 per month on interest. So I was like, no, let me move this money somewhere into something that will generate money. And then when I look around, I saw a lot of things which have got a lot of risk. I'm like, no, I'm not going for this. I'm not going for this. And then I felt like property was the best thing for me to put my money. And it was easy for me to qualify for those houses because during the COVID, the interest was high. So I was more like just buying houses and buying houses and buying houses. So I think 2020 I bought 2 and 2021 I bought 2. And then when I buy those houses, I made sure that I don't just buy a house. I go and build more things on those houses so that if anything happens, I have that room. Even when the interest rates went up, I had a lot of people complaining to say the interest is high. But because I had already put more rooms on those bachelors, it was more like I'm not really feeling the pressure because there's a lot of money coming, which I'm able to service the debt.